So I've been making Digimon content for many years now, and I know a lot about Digimon since I had to do a lot of research for videos. Now I pretty much cover everything the franchise has to offer, and today is the finale of the Digimon arc on my YouTube channel. Yes, this time it's real, my friend, I'm not kidding. So to finish this off, I'd like to give you all my thoughts / review on every single Digimon seasons, except Atmon, every movies, every Digimon game. So yeah, Digimon fans, I really hope you enjoyed the journey with me, and I hope you have a blast watching this final video of Digimon on my YouTube channel. Enjoy. Digimon Adventure is so good. One of my favorite shows as a kid, and it's still one that I can rewatch over and over again and still enjoy it. It does such a good job when it comes to the character designs, development, action scenes, and of course adding element of the real world consequences. Every Digidestined deal with their own insecurities, and throughout the show they learn to overcome them in order to help themselves and their friends. And due to that, it also makes the Digimon evolve and help them too. The CGI animation was one of my favorite part of the show. It was so different than anything I've seen before. The butterfly song is so iconic to me to this day, and the villains are so memorable. I love every single Digidestined in this show, and of course Taichi was my favorite since day one, and Agumon was my favorite Digimon of all time. Yeah, so many cool Digivolution, and at the time, this guy was just so crazy. Overall, the show is a great ride that makes you feel like a kid again. Digimon Adventure 02 was part of my childhood. I love the next generation feel and the way the original group still factor in the Digimon Emperor idea and how the idea of humans as flawed and susceptible to making mistakes and become villains was quite interesting. Digimon reinvented themselves with the series by adding the armored Digivolution, and I thought that was such a cool concept. Black War Greymon is by far the most interesting character in season 2, no doubt about it. I do love Kane's character development as well, and of course Beamon is the best in the series. You already know why. I mean, the fact that he has so many cool Digivolutions, there's no other way to not like him, right? Having TK and Ikari being part of the new kids was amazing, and of course seeing all the chosen children from Adventure helping the kids out was phenomenal. I gotta say that the story got me really hooked after the Emperor arc, and before it was really repetitive. It was always like going back and forth with the digital world, and it was kind of annoying to see that freaking scene every single time, you know? But it was a very enjoyable show still. Digimon Tamers is one of the best seasons. This was the first reboot in the franchise by taking it a completely new direction. The fact that Digimon are learning how to behave and act in the real world, while their partners are learning how the Digimon act, is such a cool concept. It shows a more realistic side of Digimon along with many humans that can sympathize with the characters in the show, which was another awesome thing. The relationship between Takuro and Guilmon, and even the one with Guilmon and Itmar, are so great. The Matrix evolution concept is so great, and the animation for the transformation still gives me goosebumps. It's definitely the most darkest, sadness, and more mature series of them all, but that's what truly made me love the series more than ever. Digimon Frontier is a cool ass season. To make it different, kids are transforming into Digimon. Neemon and Bokomo were so cool, the storyline was great, and it managed to hit some very real topics along the way, such as loneliness, death, divorce, and one I can relate the most, bullying. The final arc with the Roll Knights and Lusmo was a bit too long for what it is, but seeing Susanamon definitely makes up for it. The evolutions were so sick as well, and many episodes got me emotional and inspirational. This to me is a very underrated series, and I will highly recommend to give it a shot if you haven't, despite on how long it has been since the release, and please watch it in sub. The English version is just not so good, but overall a great ass show. Digimon Data Squad is a series that I enjoyed so much. Marcus Demon is the best part of the series. He loves to fight Digimon, which sounds crazy, but he does a good job at it. His Digimon partner is Agumon, which is completely different than the old Agumon that we all love. This one is taller and has cool red bracers and such an amazing evolution line. As for the other characters, they have their own sense. The development was shown right at the start of the show, and overall, it was fabulous. Data Squad did a fantastic job when it comes to the evolution scene. I gotta admit that the series wasn't so great until the Kurota arc, which to me was the high point of the series. And then after that, I kinda went back and used all plot elements from Tamers and Adventure with Digimon and humans that fights together against a new enemy, which traded both the digital world and the real world, but it wasn't that bad. Regardless of that, I still enjoyed the show quite a lot. Digimon Fusion is my least favorite season of them all. I was expecting something so good since Digimon stopped for almost 4 years with no seasons. Despite that, I have to admit that the Digi transformations in the show was fucking amazing, especially when it comes to Shopmon. The story wasn't so great, it was definitely aimed for kids and not for everyone. I was in my teenagers year when it released and I just didn't enjoy it. When it comes to Cross Wars though, I surely enjoyed the Legendary Heroes episode where all the main protagonists comes all together to go against Quadsmon. This was my favorite part of the show. Some of the fights were quite amazing to watch. watch. For this one, I'm gonna put my full review that I made already. Enjoy. Early on, the show felt so rushed. It takes place in a digital space, and the initial characters, Digimon companions, went through their evolution so quickly like it didn't matter. The writers are like, yo, you already know their forms, so let's just get them out of the way right now, right? On episode 2, Omegamon appeared right away, and it got us all confused, like it's an ultra level Digimon we're talking about. Thankfully it wasn't permanent, because I would have lost interest right away if it was the case. I think the digital world in Adventure 2020 was so beautiful. We finally got to see it more than ever before. And for the most part of the show, when the main characters can't digivolve, as they will often go into big fights without evolving, themselves at a disadvantage, only for the action to stall when they're forced to evolve. Time Matt's partner Digimon had the best animation sequences, while the others didn't really get a fancy animation, and for most, their evolution sequence will be skipped except for Agumon and Gabumon, and it sucks. Like, everyone should have got as much love as those two. Like, seriously, why not doing that, right? Like, I still don't get it to this day. The team dynamic didn't feel as good as before, especially since they split up early on, leaving Matt and Tai together while everyone else get into a singular group once again. And I have to say that the plot was moving much faster than the original one, and featuring all the new Digimon was amazing. Let's not forget that many Digimon made cameos that we've seen from previous anime seasons, which was amazing. Digimon Adventure 2020 definitely felt completely different than the original, and gotta say that the explanation of the connection between events in the real world and the digital realm felt much better than ever before. By episode 18, the group is now on a quest to find the Holy Digimon, and at the same time they have to save Tokyo from completely getting shut down, which this part was quite interesting. The villain here was Nignomon, a Digimon that we never seen before. Omegamon appeared once again and saved the day. And it did suck that they introduced Omegamon again, because at first I was like, are they just gonna freaking get Omegamon to appear every single time they're like in a bad fucking danger? Thankfully it wasn't like that, so I was still intrigued to keep watching the show to find out what's next. By episode 24, the series get a lot more darker than ever, with a beautiful animated gruesome scenes between Metal Greymon in complete form into Machine Dramon. Dundevimon appeared, which was so unexpected. The beautiful scene of Tokumon evolving into Patamon was so adorable. This episode was a lot to take in compared to everything we've seen before, and I loved it. Now, I gotta say that the new form for Metal Greymon and Wargarumon was indeed incredible. I love their designs. Even though it wasn't much, I love seeing them in action. And again, I wish everyone got a form like that. Imagine Litamon with a power-up like we've seen with the other two, or Zudomon with something new. You know, it would have been sick. I don't know why they didn't do that. No, it's gonna be only Metal Greymon and fucking Wargarumon. Come on, Digimon, do better. On episode 31, Greymon finally appeared, and the craziest part was that Reprimon was introduced as well. And if you don't know by now, the last time we saw him was on Digimon Rumble Arena as the final boss of the game on the PlayStation 1, and I was amazed by it because it really felt nostalgia, because to me, Digimon Rumble Arena was one of the first Digimon games I ever played, and I loved it so much, so I was quite happy seeing this fucking Digimon in the show. Gotta say though, that Wargreymon was even more badass than ever before, and that was so cool to see. And after that, for a while, the children kept on going on their journey. We got to see Pegasusmon as an evolution for Patamon, and Jewelmon appear. For the most part, the show started to get pretty boring to me since you just felt the same thing over and over again. But thankfully on episode 36, Blitzgreymon appeared, which was surprisingly unexpected, but in the show, depending on the environment, the Digimon have an alternate evolution, which we've seen quite often throughout the show, and it was cool to see Blitzgreymon, because if you don't know by now, this Digimon first appeared on the mobile game, then he appeared on Digimon Masters, so again, it was very cool for Digimon to bring us more cool Digimons like that for the show. Metal Greymon looks better than ever. At 46, we got to see a nostalgic moment because Angelmon and Devimon fought against each other, so I guess he still haven't learned his lesson about fighting Holy Digimon though. And I gotta say too that I wish the fights were a little longer than what we've been getting overall. It really sucks. So in episode 50, Mirinamon has been revived, and we get to see Goldramon and Magnadramon going against him, but again, Taichi was the one saving the day. Thankfully though, Omegamon didn't appear again. And for a while, I feel like the character development in the series was lacking so much, which is why to me the series is a bit less enjoyable than before. By episode 54, we got one of the best animation that the show has ever put out. Some crazy brutal fights, and to be honest, I just love it so much when evil Digimon fight. They just don't hold back on the violence. Oh, and Cutemon was just cute. Mimi really stand out in the reboot, and I loved it. She has a charismatic presence on the screen. She's even the first one to make any progress on this current mystery. And one of the best episodes that got me emotional was one with Goldramon. It was really early on, and I thought that was such a beautiful episode, and that actually made me tear up on that one. Yeah. Men do cry. Anyways, by episode 56, Chris Garamond appeared, and the story was great. It just sucks that we didn't get to see an alternate evolution more frequently for all the Digimon. Instead, it happened like once and for most Digimon. And it really sucks though that Blitzgreymon and Curse Garamond didn't appear more often, or the other alternate evolution. I mean, it still makes sense, like I said, because of the Avarunman. I wish they got more screen time. Not gonna lie though, I feel like Taichi appeared way too many times at last minute to save the day. Like, come on Taichi, let the other Digistan have a time to shine as well, not just you, man, come on. You're not the only chosen children, my friend. As much as I'm a fan of Taichi overall, in this show, it was really hard for me to actually like him or care about him. It's just the fact that he's so perfect that he never gives up or even cry in pain when he's literally being strangled to death just makes him boring and unrelatable, right? Or is it just me? Like, I don't really get attached to Taichi like I did in like Adventure or Try or fucking the last Kazuna movie, you know? In all seriousness though, I just wish more episode was giving the shine to others and not just Taichi coming to save the world every single time. On episode 60 though, Joe really stepped it up. We got an epic Viking versus Viking combat. I guess this was like the most epic we've seen Joe ever before. Like, he was really standing tall with his coat flapping in the wind. It just sucks that it happened so late in the show though. Another great thing though is saying Holy Angemon Price mode in Seraphimon evolution sequence, which was fucking awesome. It was unexpected and I loved it. On episode 65, 1/3 of this episode was just them digivolving and shouting one after another, which was pretty sad. I mean, what was the point of that, right? They could have just put all of them all on the screen instead of just making them go one by one, right? We gotta clap for Agumon though, because he was the longest villain in the fucking show, yo. It's just me though, Negamon doesn't feel like a treat to be honest, because he seriously screwed villains and gave the Goku Superman treatment to them. Like, they never lost and every villain was killed immediately. On the last episode, I gotta say that we had the best animation for a battle ever than before. It actually felt like a Digimon Adventure movie, like when we got to see Omegamon. I feel like it was a big references to that movie for that aspect of this episode, and I loved it. Last part for the show was indeed Omegamon Alter S, who could have been used for a movie instead, but they gave it to us for the finale, and I guess I was very happy for sure because I was praising for this guy to appear. Glad that this happened, I guess. For this fight, they didn't like any Digimon movie where we get to see the final form. Like, you know, Emperor Dragon Paludomon pretty much destroyed Armageddon in the movie in less than 30 seconds, and then he disappeared. The same thing for this show, like, we got to see Omegamon Alter S for like a brief moment, like 30 seconds or less, to destroy this fucking Negamon Digimon, and that was it for Omegamon Alter S. They didn't say much more about him. That was it. I gotta admit though that I really enjoyed the Digivice power up to the Digimon. I think it was a different concept, and it was just cool to see that the Digivice was actually usable for something else than just a part of like the evolution. The ending was great though. It got me a little emotional. Glad to see like Taichi and Agumon still in the digital world, just, you know, having fun again. Speaking of the villain though, I don't feel like they felt much memorable in that one at all, because, you know, before we got like Mautismon, Edamon, Belzomon, there were so many crazy villains that I feel like we got emotional attached to a certain degree. In the show, not really. Is there really a villain where you actually felt something for them? Most of the time, they just got completely destroyed in less than 5 minutes, and we didn't hear anything about them ever again. As for the pacing, it wasn't always that good, and the writing for some episodes just felt rushed more than anything. The storyline could have been way better than what we got, but it wasn't always terrible, just not as good as the original one. I feel like the show could have been much shorter than what we got. As much as I love having a lot of episodes, it's just there were so many fillers and many pointless episodes that I felt like it wasn't necessary, and the show could have been done in like, I guess like 30 episodes if it was done properly, and it would have done much better, I believe, because if we look at like the ratings for most of the recent episodes, a lot of people starting to hate the show due to Taichi for the most part, because he was always there saving the day. Like, I do believe we would have done better if it wasn't as long as what we got. I'm so happy though. Outside of Taichi, none of the Digidestin were really set up outside of their one-dimensional setups. Speaking of the positive sides a little bit more though, guys, I gotta say that I enjoyed the evolution for the chosen kids. I'm glad that everyone was able to get a Mega Digimon on their journey this time. Most of the kids didn't do much since they got outshined by Taichi, and there were some great episodes here and there. Most felt the same, and just wish the character development would have been better for everyone, to be honest. I didn't hate the season though, just wish the writers would have done a better job at it. The animation overall was amazing. Having Omegamon Alter S still gives me chill in the last fight and many others. Digimon Ghost Game, there's only 2 episodes out, so all I'm gonna say is this could be the Tamer's spiritual successor. That's all. Digimon Adventure movie was the short film that started all with the franchise. I grew up watching the dub version and it wasn't that great, but I watched it in sub and it was much better indeed. The animation was beautiful for its time. I see a lot of empathy for the children in the movie. The battle between Greymon and Paramon was intense. Seeing Ikari crying too much to blow a whistle wake up War Greymon, that was fucking insane. The character animation is just so dynamic but quite gentle. This movie felt like it captured a feeling of fear and destruction. I'm definitely glad that Digimon didn't take this route for the future though. Overall, it was a good startup for the whole series, man. Digimon Adventure or War Game. This was a good spin-off from the original Digimon series. It does a good job to connect the series as well. One of my favorite part of it was the animation. It was so beautiful. The humor was quite good, and honestly, I enjoy it more in dub than sub. Probably due to the jokes that was thrown in there. Some really good Digimon battles, of course, and the songs are great, and more importantly, the Omegamon appearance with the music, the desperation to beat Diaboromon was one of the most iconic scenes to me in Digimon history, and seeing him in action was so intense from start to finish. What a movie. Probably the best Digimon movie out there. I watched this movie countless times when I was a young boy, and had good memories due to it. I enjoyed the fighting scenes quite a lot, and the music was annoying low-key. Not gonna lie, Wallace was so annoying though. Watching it now is not as good as I used to. Seeing Davis and Otto riding across the field with Ray Drama was probably my favorite part of the movie. The plot holes is still really weird when it comes to the dub though. Sub did a better job for sure when it comes to the movie plot. It's definitely not as good as War Game in my opinion, but there's still some good part here and there to just enjoy. Digimon Adventure 02 Revenge of Diaboromon. There's not much to say about it. The story is quite simple. I just thought it was cool that Diaboromon made a comeback. The battle between Omegamon and Diaboromon was indeed awesome, and seeing losing was unexpected, and it was cool to see that Emperor Drama Paladin mode appear for the first time ever to go and finish Armageddon in the end. Overall, it's a very fun movie to watch as a Digimon fan, but nothing beats the first one honestly. Digimon Tamers Battle of Adventurers. This one had a very interesting story, and I really enjoyed the art style for it. The battle animation was wonderful. It has a lot of exciting, suspenseful, and packed with accident, and made it an enjoyable movie. Digimon Tamers Runaway Locomon. This movie is just about stopping Locomon pretty much. The storyline is not crazy, but as a fan of Digimon Tamers, I had fun watching it. It doesn't feel like a movie though, since it takes about 30 minutes to watch. I definitely enjoyed the action scenes more than anything. Digimon Frontier Island of Lost Digimon. I feel like this movie wasn't necessary to be honest. As always, the fights were fun to watch, the characters are as good as the series, great animation, and just a fun movie again to watch. Digital Monster X Evolution stand out from any of the Digimon movies out there. This one is so unique because it's fully CGI for the animation, and it's a remake of the manga Digimon Chronicle but without the humans. What I loved the most about the movie was seeing the struggles of Durmon, who's trying to survive while being hunted down by the Royal Knights and other Digimon looking to kill for his antibodies. Seeing how much he goes through is fucking crazy and makes you care a lot for this Digimon. There's many sad and touching moments throughout the movie, and one of my favorite parts was seeing the popular Digimon fighting enemies or each other, and it has a lot of drama and good action for a movie without humans. It was great. Digimon Savers Ultimate Power Activate Burst Mode. This movie was alright. The story drops you into a story that is not being explained, but you find out that the well somehow has been taken over by a Digimon named Argamon, and we get introduced to a girl named Rim who came from the digital well and has something to do with Argamon. Basically, the movie is just about Marcus and Agumon fighting Argamon and eventually become Greymon Burst Mode and beat it, and that's pretty much all the movie. Yeah, that movie wasn't that good. Digimon Adventure 12 was actually close to perfect. This was a good visit to memory lane, and the animation is beautiful. It's a great callback to the original with a lot of the original voice actors. The storytelling was alright and a bit more darker than the previous adventure. There's a lot of plot holes and other unexplained stuff that I don't want to get into, but seeing how all the kids coming together for Omegamon Merciful Mode to appear was freaking badass as hell. Of course, the battle scenes were entertaining and the characters were lovable, and their fashion was on point too. Hell yeah. Digimon Adventure Last Evolution Kizuna. For this one, here's my old review because it's still on point. Digimon Adventure Last Evolution Kizuna is the conclusion of the original Digimon Adventure storyline, which is set 5 years after the events of Digimon Adventure Tri. We see all the Digidestined grown up and mature. It shows a lot of adult problems as well that a lot of us go through and dealing with them as well. Sometimes I do wish I could just go back in time and enjoy playing Digimon World 1 or even just having a blast playing some Modern Warfare 2 with the homies. It was much easier back then, but it is indeed in the past, and now that I'm older, I have new priorities and that's just life. In the movie, it does show that the guys don't want to let go of their childhood, and I can't blame them. This movie is about growing up and understanding that you have to let go. For the Digidestined, they still have a job to keep up, and is to protect the civilians from the Digimons that comes to this world, but also be able to manage their normal life. This movie will get you emotional as fuck if you've been watching it since you were just a kid. As a fan of Digimon Adventure myself, and growing up with the franchise, I've said that I cry like a bitch many times through it all. with many songs from the original series to update the Digivolution scene of the original, many references to the series, and with an amazing animation. How can you not? The movie takes place in 2010 with Taichi and his friends reaching adulthood. Taichi and Yamato gets informed by Minya, a science fixed from America, that soon their partnership with their Digimon will soon end and forever separate them, as now they are not children anymore. As it goes on, the Digidestined all across the world are being targeted and put into coma. This Digimon named Eosmon is the one behind it, and is also taking their consciousness as well. Tai and Matt now have a limited time before the connection with their Digimon is gone, so they have to hurry in order to save everyone. Kizuna mainly focuses on Taichi and Matt making the necessity of growing up and learning to be okay when things end. Taichi having a moment to himself as he stares at its whole trademark goggles and Digivice from the first adventure, or working at a job that he doesn't like at all, and you can tell that he's exhausted from it. Feeling the pressure of looking for a job and to graduate because of his friends telling them, and shows that he's not so sure of what he wants in life, and a lot of us can definitely relate to that. Or Matt's face having a look of defeat when he walks by the street performer or seeing a kid playing the harmonica. When the two gets to a bar talking about life, Matt mentioned that he's not so sure about what he wants and is thinking about dropping out of grad school because he thinks that it's not the right choice. The two talks also about the other Digidestined knowing what they want in life, and them not knowing show how hard it is for them since they haven't figured it out, and they are the oldest of the group as well. It's totally something that I can totally relate to, as I didn't know what I wanted in life and thought that I had to follow what everyone was doing, and that is to go to college and get a 9 to 5 like everyone else. But I said fuck it, now I'm doing what I love and hope you do the same. And if you haven't figured it out for yourself, it will eventually come to you. Don't worry about it. You have so much time, and try your best to enjoy life as it only happen once, you know? And if you notice, I haven't really talked about the other Digidestined, and the reason is that they don't really play a major role in the movie. Tiki and Ekara appears at the beginning as they fight off Batman with Angelmon and Angelwoman, and also appear later in another fight that I don't want to say too much because it's very awesome, and I don't want to spoil it, so they don't really appear other than that. And the way the show begins by fighting off Batman with Angelmon and Angelwoman it was nicely done. It was such a cool fight, probably one of the best fights in the show, to be honest. It's so nicely done, seriously, with the music from the original series and the Digivolution scene sequences in a better art style, right? Like, I'm not gonna lie to y'all, man, I actually cried a lot just watching this scene alone. It was very nostalgic as well, the fact that this was Parrotmon who appeared, which we saw back in Digimon Adventure movies. It was such a great job on their part for doing that. And as for the two, Tiki is writing off a novel and is also a freshman studying literature, and Ikari is a freshman in early childhood education. Joe is getting closer to become a doctor as well and still work hard every single day to become one, and that's why we barely see him. Mimi sells stuff online, so she's busy working with designing original products. Izzy runs his own business and he helps people with Digimon related problems all around the world, and he also helped Taichi and Matt solving the problem that is going on in the story, and he uses computer as he did back in the Digimon movie. So as I said before, there's a lot of Digimon Adventure references throughout the movie, and I love that. Sora is the head of a traditional flower arrangement school, and she decided not to fight, so she practically appeared for like 2 minutes in the movie. Like, she barely do shit, trust me. And yeah, she's very useless in this movie, but we do learn more about her from the memorable story, and if you haven't watched it, go ahead and do so if you want to see what Sora is doing exactly. And there's also one coming with Joe very soon as well that I'm going to be covering, and I'm really excited for it, and I hope you are as well. And as for the Digimons, they're still as goofy as they were back in the days. Agumon finding out about Tai's hiding point DVDs was very funny because he wanted to watch it, and this also shows how much Tai has grown up since that first adventure. Agumon is still as loyal, supportive, and trust Matt with his decision as he did back in the day. So it's very cool to see how like the Digimons are being the same. And for the other Digimon, they don't really talk much. We don't really see them doing anything really. They're just as goofy pretty much as they were before. Another thing I want to mention though is when Minya tells them that no one can stay with their Digimon forever, it really shows how broken they felt. Like, we can see how it affected them a lot throughout the whole movie. It was very painful to watch. I understand how they felt, man. Like, you don't want to lose your Digimon, you know? One thing that I really love about this movie though is seeing the O2 kids reappearing in the show, which made me very happy, especially seeing my boy David still being a total idiot in New York. And you know me, man, seeing my boy Vimon was fucking awesome. I cried of tears of happiness just seeing all 4 of them actually. We even get to see Willis, Lopmon, and Terramon, even Miko and Milkomon, and many Digidestined from the past, which I definitely didn't expect to see. And what I can say about that is this movie really gave us a lot of Digimon fan service, and I'm so happy with that. As for the battle scenes throughout the movie, it was so fantastic seeing Omegamon reappearing again, the O2 Kids champion Digimon in action, a Leomon for once has survived as well, my friend. And the final battle was something that I truly enjoyed, especially seeing the new forms of Agumon and Gabumon into action was well executed. One thing I have to say about the final battle that they do with all their Digimon movies is that their final battle is never too long, especially when they digivolve into a brand new form. We don't see them for too long, which kind of sucks because those new forms are just too OP every single time, so we just get like 30-second maximum of the fight with those new Digimons, and that is all. Especially the fights with Merciful Mode in Digimon Tri. This was so sad to see because you were expecting, there was so much a big build up to this fight, and just to see Merciful Mode just do like one attack and that is it, was such disappointed. But at least for the final battle, we did see some really cool visual to it, and I'm cool with it. You know, that's the way Digimon does it, and there's nothing we can do about it. Maybe we'll change in the future Digimon movies, but I guess it is what it is, you know?
It is what it is. It is what it is.
And seeing the friendship of Taichi and Matt being so strong now made me very happy as well, since as we seen it at first, it wasn't as good as it is now. And as we learn in life, some of our best friends does drift apart from us, and we do see that in the movie as well, like seeing their friends' connection slowly falling apart. And it's definitely hard to see, but it does happen. And that's just the way it is. And this movie really shows us what's truly important now and then, and I love that. This movie had such a great message, and I'm all for it. Okay, so now I'm gonna talk about some big spoilers. If you don't want to hear them, here's the time you can skip to, so you don't hear anything at all from that, okay? Now, let me get to it. When Taichi blows into Ikari's whistle, and we get a quick nostalgic trip to when Taichi did it as a kid, got me really emotional, man. It was crazy to watch, for real. Then Matt and Taichi says we have to move forward as they keep saying it, and also accepted at the end of the movie that finally they have to move from there, and it was really great though. But one thing that really got me too is when Menua's memory of her and her Digimon, showing that she didn't want to move from the past, was really hard to watch, and you could tell that her intention of what she did throughout the movie is because she didn't want the other Digisystem to go through the same thing as she did, because eventually you do lose your Digimon when you grow up, right? So I definitely understand her pain. What she did was definitely wrong. On the other hand, you know, the reason why is because she didn't want to move from her past, and I feel like a lot of people get caught up in their past or their childhood memories and get a lot of nostalgia, and sometimes it is definitely hard to move from it, but we do have to move forward in life in order to grow as a human being. So to say that, you know, as a kid it was much easier because we didn't know as much as we do now. So I definitely felt Menua's pain throughout the movie, especially at the end of it with this part right here. And another thing that got me really emotional is when Matt said we all have to live with the choices we make. We may not be able to change our fate, but our lives aren't preordained. And I really felt that, man. And Taichi and Matt also said that never give up, and then they saved Menua, and you can tell that she got really emotional. And I think at this point she understood what she did was wrong, and now I believe, we don't know, I do believe she will learn from her past mistakes, even though she's going to jail now. You know what I mean? Like, I felt like they were a great message throughout the movie, man. Now, this part got me crying in tears, man. This was the hardest part that I ever watched in Digimon, period. This part was just too crazy, man. But let's talk about it, of course. At the end, it cuts up to a scene of Matt with a new harmonica, which I thought was pretty cool. And Gabumon said, "Let me hear you play," and Matt plays the song, man, and it felt so nostalgic just hearing that. Now it cuts to Taichi and Agumon, right? And Agumon's like, "Yo, I want some ice cream." And later on, Agumon said, "You sure got bigger, Tai." And Taichi said, "You never change." And then it cuts back to Matt playing the harmonica, right? And Gabumon is just enjoying it, and it's so hard to watch, man, because Gabumon said that Matt is the best partner that he ever had, right? And then he goes straight back to Agumon, and we got that sad music going on in the background, you know what I mean? So now it goes back to Agumon, and now Agumon say, "What about tomorrow?" And on the other hand, Gabumon say to Matt, what would you do now? So Taichi says, who knows, and look into the sky as Matt looks in the sky and say, what tomorrow may bring. And as they both start saying what they think they should do, the Digimon disappear just like that. And then we get to see Matt and Taichi crying, man. Like crying really hard about losing their Digimon, man. And it's so painful to watch, man. I cried like a little bitch just this scene alone, man. Like I cried so many times throughout the movie, but this part right here was one of the hardest part to watch throughout the whole series for sure, man. It was really hard to just see those Digimons leaving like that. It's just the way that they leave is so painful because, you know, the Digimons aren't crying though, you know? Like it seems like the Digimons are totally cool with moving on, but they did mention that they do have a feeling that they will meet again. And that's maybe why it wasn't as painful for them to move on from this. But seeing two of our favorite Digidestined crying like that, man, was just something that was very emotional. And especially if you watch Digimon Adventure, try everything around those two guys, made it even harder to watch. And just seeing that growing up with Digimon definitely made it harder for me, man. But it definitely felt like a big goodbye to the franchise, and it's okay with what they did. It just was very hard to watch, man. And after this, it cuts out to Matt saying that was how they finally grew up, but our story hasn't ended, and it's evolving in a new direction. And to finish this off, they say, just you wait, I promise I will come see you again. And I do believe that, since it seems that they're following the epilogue of the O2 ending, and I'm totally cool with that. Or what if the reason they're saying it again is because of their kids having Digimons now? We don't know for sure what exactly how it's gonna go, but one thing we can learn as well from this part right here is that we do grow from our pain. Pain is temporary, but we do grow from it, you know? It's hard to be in pain, but we definitely learn a lot from it, because it is a feeling like any other feelings, you know what I mean? I learned so many things from this movie, man. I loved it. But it's safe to say, at least for me, that this movie was incredible. The animation especially was amazing. The story pace was well done. Felt like the story was more focused on Taichi and Matt and their partners, and I do wish it did focus a bit more on the others, especially, you know, Sora. I kind of wish I saw a little bit more of her. Sad note though, I felt like a lot of trailers dropped for this movie before it came out, and I feel like we got so many spoilers from it, sadly, and hope that in the future we won't get as many spoilers like that for Digimon. Like, I get the reason why they're doing it, to get us more excited for the movie, but if you show too much, it will suck when we watch it, because we will know most of it. And I feel like I knew a lot of things that were going on in the movie before it came out because of this. And I hope that in the future Digimons don't make the same mistake and don't show as much as they did for this movie, man. Regardless, I still enjoyed it a lot and love all the references to adventure. Seeing the Digidestined growing up was great, and definitely learned a lot from this movie alone. It's a touching send-off to the series, and having to say goodbye to the adventure that fill our youth, especially to the ones that grow with the series. As for myself, that made me cry like a bitch ass.
Digimon World is one of my favorite games of all time. I was never able to beat the game as a kid and still had a blast. I beat the game like 15 years later and was so awesome. I have many great memories about the game, and what stands out the most is the music. The music has such a unique sound to it and always brings me joy when I listen to it. Especially when it comes to the File City Day and Night song. It gets me really emotional when I hear it, and I don't know if it's due to nostalgia or that I just miss not having too much to think about. Honestly though, recruiting and seeing File City expand throughout your journey is just such a good feeling, and the fact that you can train and become different kind of Digimon along the way makes the experience so amazing. Digimon Digital Card Battle. I don't have much to say since I never played the game fully, since I was never into the actual card game, but I did love collecting the cards as a kid though. The music is really good, and the fact that you battle some iconic characters from the franchise is great, and when it comes to the animation to the battle is quite cool, and that's all I can really say about it. Digimon World 2. I used to play this game quite a lot as a kid and never finished it until I made a Let's Play on my YouTube channel, and I had the determination to beat it, and I did. It was a great experience, but I must say that the grinding in this game is way too long. If it wasn't for that, it will be a game that I could always go back and have fun, but due to it, it killed it for me. I do love the fact that they made the game completely different than the first World game, and I thought the combat system and the Digibito was a cool concept, and there were so many cool Digimon 2 that we never seen before. Digimon World 3 is my favorite game of all time, no doubt about it. First thing that comes to mind about the game is the music. The best music ever. It's so good, and I love listening to it while I'm I'm working on stuff, or just having a peaceful time. The story, characters, and the graphics were fucking amazing for its time. They even added the card game system, and I gotta admit, I did enjoy playing it on this version of the game. There's so many amazing Digimon that you can obtain along the way. The grinding though is a lot for sure, and there's a lot of back and forth, which is annoying, but still is amazing. Only the game had some sort of teleportation or portal, and would have made the experience so much better, and probably the best Digimon games for everybody if it was the case, because it's so good, man. Digimon World 4. I didn't enjoy that game that much, to be honest. It was fun to be an actual Digimon for the first time and just have some of the coolest rookie Digimon at the time as a selection. The grinding is horrible as hell, and it takes so long to beat the game, but on the bright side, playing with 3 other friends is such a fun experience. Digimon Rumble Arena. This is the first Digimon fighting game ever, and was very fun to play. There's cool mini games and Digimon from Adventure and Tamers that you can play as. The final boss, Rippamon, is still hard to this day, which is crazy to me because I always had a hard time as a kid. The game gets repetitive real quickly though, but playing it here and there is great. Digimon Rumble Arena 2. This game was just a fun multiplayer game to play with the homies, to be honest with y'all. I mean, now there were some characters from the Frenchy series in it, and you can go up to 4 players instead of 2. You can evolve up to Mega Form, so it was a cool concept and game. The music sucked in this one compared to how epic the music sounded in the first installment, man. Digimon Battle Spirit 1 and 2. This was a cool game to play on the Game Boy Advance. Your goal is to collect as many balls as possible in order to win the fight. The final boss was very hard though for both games, and it gets repetitive real quick, but coming back to play here and there, it's not bad like playing Digimon Rumble Arena. Digimon Racing wasn't that good. It's basically Mario Kart Digimon Edition, and there's not much to it. I mean, you can evolve to go faster or get some attacks to use, and there's a boss battle in order to proceed to the next stop. It's a fun racing game, but I already play Crash City or Mario Kart, you know? Digimon World Data Squad. This game was terrible. There's too much grinding and encounters to a point where it takes you hours to just beat one single level. The story feels completely unimportant, and the characters are too cheesy to make anyone really care. The slowness is what killed the game for me, but I gotta admit that the Digimon catalog is freaking amazing, and once I learned how to deal more damage during battles, made the experience really fun. I had a blast making videos out of it since I was able to cut out all the BS, you know? And that goes for many of the games that I played, honestly. Definitely not a game I will recommend to play, but to watch on YouTube, why not? Digimon All-Star Rumble. The story mode is the same thing with every Digimon, and it takes up to an hour to beat, just so you can unlock some more Digimon. This is easily the weakest entry in the entire Rumble series. The free roaming fighting could have done better, and if only the game was online, it would have made the game more decent. There's good soundtracks, and it's a fun experience on your first time in the story mode, then it turns to shit. Digimon World Registise and Decode. Those games were freaking amazing. I had such a blast playing it from start to finish. If you were a fan of Digimon World 1, this is basically the sequel, and there's just so much to do, so much to see than ever before. The music is so good, they even remake some of the old soundtracks, so you really get that nostalgia feelings when playing. The story is very interesting on both games. On Decode, there's more content mainly around the X-Antibody Digimon, and I love it. Recruiting Digimon was still as good as the first installment, and grinding to get new form was amazing. Once you understand the system for Digivolution and how to get skill, the game is just so much better. Let's not forget that many Digideston are in the Colosseum, ready to battle you, and will give you some nice reward as well that will allow you to Digivolve into certain forms. Like, it's really good. I love it. I love that game. Digimon World Championship. I didn't have much fun playing this game, and mainly because I was never a big fan of playing the Digimon V-Pets. All you do is rise Digimon so they can fight against each other in a tournament, or just some fun battles. It just feels too repetitive to me, but I get it if you're a fan of the V-Pets since it's basically an upgraded version of it. Digimon Adventure. As a fan of the original series, I enjoy playing Digimon Adventure a lot. There's a lot of dialogues though, but it's still very fun to see, and the cutscenes are amazing. It's so wonderful to be able to play it in the game format, and would love to see it for Tamers. Imagine this on the next gen console. It will be incredible, but it's probably never gonna happen, but I'm just saying. I do love the gameplay a lot. It's a turn-based game, and I do enjoy the music a lot. It still brings nostalgia while playing it. There's even some cool ass side quests, such as teaming up with some of the main protagonists from other seasons, and the best part is that there's the Digimon movie in it. Well, you play it actually. It's sick as fuck. Digimon Battle Online. This was the first Digimon PC game I played, and it was fun at the time. I don't remember anything though, so I can't really say much more. Digimon Masters. Digimon Masters was so fun early on. I had such a blast going through the quest, Jogur's quest, in order to get new Digivolution. The grinding was fun at the time, and of course getting new Digimon was hella fun. The music is amazing, but now the game has changed so much to a point where it's not fun at all. The loot box killed the game for me, and getting better stats now is harder than ever before, and if you don't have the money to spend, it will take you forever to be able to do everything in the game. And some of the Digimon are almost impossible to obtain, which honestly suck, and that's why I stopped playing the game. Digimon World DS Done Dust. Those games are quite great, and sometimes it does feel repetitive when it comes to the Digimon encounters and visiting the dungeons over and over again, but the story is amazing for all of the game. The grinding sucks too, because it takes way too long for some Digimon because you need certain species experience sometimes, and some of the Digimon just don't give you that much, so it's a lot of time consuming just to get a certain Digivolution, and it really kills it, but it's still overall a very fun game to play. Digimon Story Saber Suit and Hacker's Memory. Digimon Saber Suit was amazing as fuck. This game has surprisingly a mature and deep storyline, which is actually my favorite aspect of the game. The evolution mechanic was a bit annoying at first, but the more you progress, the easier it gets, so it's not so bad. There's great music, I love the characters, and some of the cutscenes are very funny and enjoyable. Sometimes though, it felt annoying to do a lot of side quests in order to progress. Online really sucks. It's a very fun JRPG when it comes to your first time, but to me the game is not fun to go back and replay all over again due to how long the game takes. You don't really get rewarded to do so. Overall, beat it once and move on to the next game. Digimon World Next Order. Digimon World Next Order is one of my favorite Digimon game out there. It plays like a Digimon World 1 game, but on PlayStation 4, so the game looks incredible. Raising Digimon is so fun, there's plenty of exploration and strategy in order to win. Expanding Facility once again was better than ever before. The X mechanic is a very fun addition to the game. Having 2 Digimon instead of 1 made it more fun to play, and the story was really solid. The soundtracks was top tier, many cool Digimon to use, and you just feel so rewarded as you progress throughout the game. I will highly recommend to play it if you haven't yet. I love the game so much that I even got a tattoo of Omegamon Alter B, which is the final boss in the game, and the design for that Digimon was more than incredible, so I had to get him, and as a memory for all the years I spent making Digimon videos, you know. Digimon Survive. Well, I guess it's never gonna happen, so yeah.